So how much does it cost to train a new employee? So by the end of this video, you're gonna have clarity really on three things. First, we need to answer, why do you even need to train a new employee? Second is going to be both the hard and the soft cost, and there are both. The third is a 3-letter strategy to help you have confidence in that training. Have you ever thought, why can't they just do it like I do it? Good grief, common sense, right? Or have you ever wanted the ultimate question? We get this one all the time. Why nobody wants to work anymore? Is that even true? So when we think about costs as it relates to employee training, a lot of us actually don't even really think about costs. We really just think in terms of time. We don't think in terms of dollars. And because it's time, and time, as Dietrich Bonhoeffer says, is irrevocable, meaning we can't make more of it, we can't get it back. We start to think, well, I don't know that it's worth it. Or I tried that in the past and it didn't work. I do think it'd be helpful for us to think about some hard and soft cost as we're doing this with employee training. Let's start with the soft cost and the soft side of things first. I think it'd be really helpful. First, when we're thinking about soft costs, you do have to think about things like time, attention, motivation. Do you have the energy, the gas in the tank? But I'll tell you this, if you are spending your days constantly putting out little fires all over the place, you will never have the time and margin to properly equip and train your team. So if you want to train a new employee, you got to first look at yourself and ask yourself on the soft cost, do I have the time margin to be able to invest? It's not an expense, it's an investment. Do I have the time margin to be able to invest in this new person? I would actually argue if you don't, it's probably not best to actually hire them. Why? It's because you're dealing with their livelihood. You realize that when somebody comes to work for you, even though you, the owner, are getting the value of having fundamentally multiple paychecks because you've got multiple customers, the reality is when an employee comes work for you, they have one paycheck. And so the entirety of their livelihood in many cases is dependent on this job. But if you're going to invite them into your company to work for your job, but you don't have time to train them, then let's stop messing around with their livelihood, because that's ultimately what we're doing. So your attention is going to be the biggest cost associated with a new employee training. We could go through all of the other aspects. We could buy programs, we could buy materials, we could talk about learning management systems and online systems and that sort of thing. That's not going to be your highest cost. Your highest cost is going to be you, your attention. Are you willing to give your attention to this new employee? And if so, then it's going to be a great return on that investment. And if it's not, you'll be able to determine that pretty quick because of the time allocation associated with it. Now, there's a little acronym that are put together. It's called HHAT. All right. So there's hidden cost, there's hard cost, there's attention, and there's time. And all of those things, when you think about your cost, think through it through the HHAT, the hidden cost, the hard cost, the attention, and time. So things like hidden cost are when an employee's having to deal with stuff and you're still paying them, but they're not producing things for you. You may not see that, but that's a hidden cost that you might not see there. Or they're taking up space, time, materials, resources that you haven't really thought through. Those are some hidden costs. Some hard costs are things like the printing, your time to sit down with them, their time to sit down during that, other people's time to sit down with them. So you can start to allocate, hey, if we've got a 4-week onboarding script, for instance, which in a future video I'll talk to you about, you can start to think through how much is that cost going to be. Now your attention is much harder to understand, but that attentive cost, and it's not just the attention of the time that you're spending with them, but it's also the attention of the time that you're actually thinking about it as well. And then your time, you can actually put a dollar and numerical value on it. Now for any of you business owners, you need to understand, your time is not worth $20, $30, $40, $50 an hour. Statistically, it's worth anywhere between $200 and $1,000 per hour. So when you account for your time, you as an owner get a minimum tab of $200 per hour. All right, when it comes to new employee training, we talk about it in 3 phases: the pre-hire, the hiring, and the onboarding phase of that. So let's talk first about the pre-hire phase. What in the world is that? Well, when we think through hiring an employee, too many of us look around and go, I need a superintendent. I need a project manager. I need an accounting person. Our first question to you is, do you really? Or do you just think that's what you need? And so one of the things we want to do in the pre-hire process is that before we even know who the person is, we're already starting to train them wise, because we're identifying gaps in the business. So it's good to go through a gap exercise. Scratch sheet of paper, spreadsheet, Google Doc, Word doc, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and pull one open, and I want you to dump your brain out onto that sheet in terms of the task that need to be accomplished that currently are not being accomplished, either by the person in that role, or if it's a new role, by the person who will be in that role. Once you have those gaps, you can now build a legitimate job role. See, too many of us now go to chat. We go somewhere else to cut in line to try to get. But the problem is, if I had 10 contracting firms, for instance, lined up side by side by side by side, and I asked all 10 owners to describe to me their project manager role, I would get 10 different responses. even if they're all in the same town building the same type of house. And so each one of our businesses is a unique organism that needs to be customized around the training that we're actually doing around that thing. So in pre-hire, we want to make time to write the gaps and then write a specific role and then title the role different. We have roles in our business. One's called an implementation assistant. Go try to find that on the internet. You're not going to do it. We've got another role in our business called a biz ops integrity role. It actually holds all of our directors accountable. Go try to find that online. You're not going to find it because it's a unique gap that we needed to fill. And you can do that too in the pre-hiring process. Second is the classic onboarding training. Now, too many business owners just forego this altogether. And this is usually how it happens. So you're driving in as an owner. It's day one for this new employee. You pull into the parking lot and you look around and you're like, that's a new car. I've not seen that new car before. Oh my gosh. It's Jenny's first day. I totally forgot. So I get out of the car, I go in, I'm like, Jenny, it's so good to see you. I'm super excited about your first day. This is gonna be so much fun. So typically what we do on your first day is we have you go ride in the truck with Steve. And so Steve's gonna be able to show you around, and we always do that on the first day. I think it's gonna be amazing. And then we'll get you back in so that you can really dive into QuickBooks and all that and really get going. And then for lunch today, it's me. It'll be lunch with me. We always do an owner lunch day one, so you and I will be together. So yeah, Jenny, you got any questions? And Jenny looks back at you and she's like, it's actually Hannah, and I think you hired me as a superintendent, but you said something about QuickBooks. And all of a sudden, guess what Jenny/Hannah's doing on her first day? She's looking for her next job. Now, she may not leave for 6 months, 12 months, but eventually she's gonna leave. Why? Because you weren't prepared. You didn't have a script. So think about this. Bill Walsh, the classic coach from the San Francisco 49ers, way back in the 80s, he started doing something that ultimately revolutionized not just the NFL, but all of American football. You know what he did? He started to script the first 15 plays of every football game. So now if you look on TV and you're watching a coach on the sideline, they've got this massive card in front of their face and they're calling in plays. It's a play sheet. So they've scripted out the entire game, but the first 15 plays are entirely scripted. Why? It's because there's jitters. People are nervous, but they spent all week repping those first 15 plays. So now when they go in, they're ready, they're capable, and they get all the jitters out so they can follow up. Why wouldn't you provide and script out the first 15 plays of your new employee? How does that look? Well, in onboarding, we can take the first 4 weeks. Week 1, day 1. Week 1, day 2. All the way through for the first 4 weeks, and you script out the first 4 weeks, day by day, for each one of your team members. Oh my gosh, that would take forever. You're right. It takes about an hour and a half the first time. And then the second time, it takes about 15 minutes to edit that for the next thing. You know why you're having a problem with it? It's because you're unwilling to make the time to actually sit down and just do it. So why don't you do that now? Why don't you think, all right, if I were to hire a project manager or an accounting person, what would day 1 look like for them? What would day 2 look like for them? And just give me topics. And as the topics go through, eventually you're going to fill out 4 weeks. And the moment they show up, you're going to show them that scripted play sheet for their first 4 weeks of onboarding. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to feel equipped and they're going to have great clarity. So they don't start looking for the next job, but they dive into this one. The third is this idea of ongoing training. Listen, it's tedious. It's simple, but it's tedious. We basically want to take all those category things that you wrote out that you're going to be training that new employee on and then just map it out across the year with great repetition, predictability, and meaning over and over and over again. Remember, we're repping this stuff. So let me tell you about the hidden cost of not training. There's a great business in Eastern Tennessee and Western Virginia. It's called Pal's Sudden Service. You can look it up, P-A-L-S. About 30 some odd locations, fast food little joint. Look up their picture online, actually. It's really interesting. And they sell hot dogs, hamburgers, shakes, and fries. Just a fascinating story. They have over 1,000 employees, but they have a turnover rate of 1.2% among their assistant managers. How does that happen in fast food? Well, they were actually written up in a 2018 article of Harvard Business Review. You can look that up as well. And at the end of the article, they asked Tom Crosby, because they spent an inordinate amount of money both on pre-hire, onboarding, and ongoing training. And they asked Tom Crosby, hey, what happens if you spend all this time and money and a person leaves? The last sentence of the article is a mic drop. He said, what if we don't and they stay? That's a question you need to be asking yourself. What if I don't train these people and they stay? Instead of, you know what, I need to invest so they don't leave. 3 things I want you to remember about this: repetition, predictability, meaning. If you can breed those 3 things into your training, you will build a new hire training program that'll be of extreme value so that on day one, instead of them looking around for their next job, they're looking inward to go, how can I grow in this one? So I talked about the cost of training a new employee and gave you an overview of pre-hire, onboarding, and ongoing training. But if you want to dive deep into that new training experience, I've got a great video that draws on the last 10 years of experience around doing this for owners just like you. I'm Scott Beebe. We do one thing really, really well. We liberate owners just like you from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.